From the Fathead Studio in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Man, am I still pretty? And he's like, you ain't pretty, but you're going to be all right.
And now I'm just hanging on, looking at the wall, like flying this way. And I'm like, oh man, I got to let go of this thing at some point.
And then there's one that could literally pick you up.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not really sure about that, but yeah.
That's called a helicopter.
Well,
And the last lap was just chaos. I mean, like 4 wide, 5 wide.
It's like whatever, if you land it and send it into the fence, you're probably not gonna get hurt. Bounce, and then this insane roll, the car that Keegan was in. I mean, I don't know it's the shape of the Beetle or what, but that thing sent it.
So I was the supercharger specialist on my old man's car with
Specialist?
Yeah, it sounds cooler than crew guy.
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Christy Lee.
I'm Alexander Rossi.
I'm Cruz Pedregon.
I'm Brandon Bernstein, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Skinny. This is the Fatheads Eyewear Studio located in Speedway, Indiana. I'm Ken Stout. That is Rico, Elmore, Michael Young back behind the controls, and we have Mr. Brandon Bernstein sitting in with us.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, cool stuff. Of course, son of the six-time national champ, and grew up in the midst of all of this racing stuff. Brandon, did you have a weekend off? How many weekends do you get off?
Yeah,
by the
well,
way?
I get off quite a few. I pick and choose what races I go to, you know, as far as NASCAR, IndyCar, NHRA, dirt, you know, whatever. So, yeah, so I get a lot of weekends off. So, yeah, it was a weekend off. I just relaxed at home with the family. Yeah, didn't do much, really.
Nice. Those are rare moments.
They are rare, very rare, especially in the summer. Yeah.
Rico?
Yeah. How are you doing?
Hey, buddy.
Good. Great.
So basically, you two, just so we know, as we're recording and filming this show, you guys will be spending a weekend together this weekend. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes. Last ever race at Denver, Vandermeer Speedway.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's the last ever race?
The last ever. Yeah, they are closing the facility down, and I guess, I mean, from what I've heard, it's going to be, you know, torn down and made into either housing or a huge warehouse, you know, facility. Yeah. So
I think the housing, like everything that's going on across the highway, I mean, when you see stuff like that happening, you're like, when? Not if, but when.
Right. Exactly.
Because they're not going to put up with the noise. They came out there and built, but they're not going to put up with the noise. But better yet, they've sold out all of their inventory, so now they're like, well, we better go to the other side of the interstate. And and it's a beautiful place, man. It's an unbelievable place. And I'm telling you, and everybody gets upset with these folks when they sell out. Listen, man, that's the golden parachute for these people that have just beat it in the ground. Up to that point. And we'll miss it. That's one of the favorites, one of the most successful stops on the tour.
It is.
Because of the Vandermeer family.
So it, of course, begs the question, will they replace it with something in that area? Because the West Coast tour is so famous.
Right, yeah, and it is. It's very famous because of the West Coast and everything. But the Vandermeer family has said that they're going to be, you know, looking for other property to try and rebuild a track out in the Denver area. But I don't know that they'll, you know, find a place. I mean,
out by the airports.
Yeah, construction though is just so expensive. I mean, out there and everything. So I don't know if they'll, you know, be able to try and make all those numbers work. It's going to be tough.
They may be able to only use binder on the track instead of like finish.
I had heard years ago that there was something in the works, and I'm sure the Vandermeer family was behind it, but it was going to be more like one of those high-end sports car clubs.
Sure.
For like the thermal club,
like
if you
thermal,
will. Yeah, exactly. You know, high, you know, expenses to become a member, but it was going to be sports cars, drag racing. It was going to be a complex that incorporated a number of things. So who knows?
Who knows? But the Vandermeer family's been a great friend of our family. You know, my dad's and myself for many, many years, and they're just an amazing family. And that track really is. It is one of the best on the circuit. It is going to be sad to see that this weekend's going to be the last ever.
So stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're going to dive into the racing career of Mr. Brandon Bernstein and his historic name.
There'd only been 2 times that they've ever given a Clydesdale, and one was to Dale Sr., and one was to my dad.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. We have Brandon Bernstein, who's joined us on the show. Now very intricate in the sponsorship side of the Lucas Oil Products Company, but spent a lot of time in the racing industry long before that. Of course, growing up as the son of one Mr. Kenny Bernstein, the 6-time NHRA champ, working on Dad's car when he was a teenager, eventually moving his way up till he climbed into the cockpit himself. Some 19 wins in the top fuel dragster category, another 3 in top alcohol dragster. So he has been around, to say the least. We have him here on the show with us and had a little bit of fun there in the first segment talking about some of the stuff that we all do here. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your career, man.
Sure.
Thanks for taking the time to come in here with us.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what it was like to be the son of the 6-time champ. And not that we want to focus on your dad.
Yeah, that's
you're
fine.
the focus here. But
Yeah, I get it.
But growing up that way, people
Yeah.
think, oh, it's super cool. It's Kenny Bernstein, you know, a legendary name, Hall of Famer, all of this stuff. But the reality of that is, to earn those credits, you're never, ever home.
Yeah.
And you're just constantly working, so your family life typically does suffer.
Yeah, and it was, but you know, in the beginning, honestly, like you know, my parents were divorced when I was 1, 2 years old. So my mom raised me, and so I watched my dad's career basically, you know, throughout my childhood, and I saw my dad maybe once or twice, you know, throughout the really early years of my childhood. And so I didn't really have a good connection with my father, to be honest. And so in high school was really when we became really close. I went on the road in high school for a summer, and he got to see how my work ethic was. And I worked on the team and just really, like, you know, just showed everything about like who I was. And yeah, well, that was on when I was on the team. We'll get to that maybe too. But yeah, so, but it was just, it was one of those things where, like, you know, I always knew that I wanted to race, and he knew that I wanted to race, but I had to prove to him the kind of person I was. And that really goes back to, like I said, how my mom raised me. And really, I really, you know, grasped that to be able to, like, you know, really know, like, I'm going to show my dad, like, I can do this and everything. So yeah, it was cool.
You came in motivated for sure.
I did. I really did. I came in motivated. I came in with, you know, this is Brandon. This is not Kenny's son, you know? And that's how I always thought of it. I always thought of, you know, people say, you know, you have big shoes to fill, you know, and everything. And I always told people, well, Brandon's got his own shoes, you know? And that's how my mindset was when I started this whole deal.
So I'll tie this in then, Brandon.
Yeah.
Your dad, obviously the ties with Budweiser, was legendary in that top fuel car. When did you realize growing up that you were a Bernstein, that you were your dad's son and you were tied to that legendary name?
Yeah, probably when I was about 10, 11, maybe 12, when I went out to the track and just knew that, you know, he was doing so well in the funny car and was winning the championship in the funny car, and just the biggest, you know, name out there with Budweiser. And I just, you know, you could feel, you know, when you're just out at the track, and you could just see the response that he would get, you know, with the fans and everything. And so that's really when I kind of knew that this is, you know, he's a superstar, and this is going to go somewhere, and that, you know, maybe this is where I really want to be one day. Yeah.
When did you guys ride the beer wagon together? When you were on the side, I mean, the dog, the Dalmatian.
Yeah, the Dalmatian. That was in, well, we did it 2 or 3 different times, honestly. But St. Louis was the first time, obviously, because, you know, they had it there. But then the second time was in Pomona. And that was a really special time, because that was when they gave him the Clydesdale. And that was only at that time, you know, this was, you know, AB. This was, you know, before InBev, everything. That was the family. And the family, there'd only been 2 times that they've ever given a Clydesdale, and one was to Dale Sr. and one was to my dad. Wow. And the family had only given
when you say
away
AB,
those.
You mean Anheuser-Busch?
Anheuser-Busch, yeah,
Right.
the Busch family, you know.
So does he have does he still have the Clydesdale in his backyard? In
No,
California,
hell no.
or?
As a matter of fact, you know, because we were sponsored by Lucas back then and
Yeah.
everything, and we knew that Forrest had his ranch and everything, so he gifted that Clydesdale to Forrest. And to this day, I don't know if he still has it or not. I haven't asked him, you know, but yeah, he gave it
What
to
year
Forrest
was
Lucas.
that?
God, that was a long time ago. I
About.
don't even remember. I mean, honestly, it had to be like 99-ish, maybe 2000, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a
yeah,
massive
98.
animal.
Oh, they're ginormous. I mean, insanely ginormous. Yeah. When we would go to St. Louis, it was so much fun because like when we go to St. Louis, we'd always go out and get the tour of, the facility, and we get right up next to the Clydesdales. And I mean, they're just massive, massive animals. And you talk about like, I mean, clean and like, I mean, their stables and the way that they like treat these animals. I mean, they're like gods. I mean, and they were like, I mean, insane how nice these stables are, and insane how clean everything was. And that's
Still
how
some of my
that's how the
favorite
fourth
commercials
and
of
the
all
third,
time.
like
I
that's how they wanted it. I mean, it was always like
and
that.
some of the issues that AB's going through right now, with their marketing. Why would you not go back to what that was?
Oh, I know.
You know what I mean? Because
ridiculous.
you guys would go to St. Louis.
Yep.
Okay, we would race in St. Louis. You guys would go out to the stables. You would go to the brewery.
Yep.
Whatever. It was a behind-the-scenes look at these hard-working men and women.
Oh yeah.
That kept up with the horses.
Yep.
Kept up, running.
And there was a
running
pride. There was a sense of pride that they had, that everybody had at AB, because they worked for a family. They worked for the fourth and the third, and that it was like that was the family. And we felt a part of that family. I mean, we were with them for 30 years. 30 years.
Robin Bragg.
I mean,
That's amazing.
all of those guys. I mean, it was just amazing. I mean, we went through so many people there that over the 30 years.
It was an American institution.
Right.
America loved Budweiser.
Absolutely.
Proud to be
Yep.
your bud.
Yep.
Those commercials, I mean, still
Oh,
second to none.
so
especially
amazing.
in the holidays with the Clydesdales. I mean,
Exactly.
it was incredible stuff for sure.
It
I
was
think we're
amazing.
going to start using Clydesdales on our commercials.
Oh, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Seemed like it worked for
You want to
them.
go for a ride on a
Michael,
horse?
what's your thoughts?
Well, yeah.
First horse Rico could
I
ride?
don't.
Exactly.
All right. Good.
He's going to get in the Miss Budweiser and take it for a spin. It was like, what? He's going to do what? I was like, this is crazy. But back then he did whatever he wanted, So.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. You're watching The Skinny here on MAVTV. We have Brandon Bernstein in the studio with us. Works just on the north side here of Indianapolis, Indiana. We were talking about the Budweiser sponsorship, the relationship with the Bernstein family for some 30 years. That story, I've not heard it told in a long time, but was legendary in terms of getting the sponsorship.
Oh, yeah.
Which helped me perfect this, but as I recall, your father was looking for sponsorship and tried to get in touch with them, really didn't have much success, went there, unloaded the cars.
Right.
Were they already decorated with the Budweiser colors on them?
No, they weren't. So the story is that, at that point he was running the Chelsea Street pub, because he owned all those Chelsea Street pubs. And so he had his funny car done up as Chelsea Street pub, brought the truck, trailer, everything, car, unloaded it in the parking lot that morning, early in the morning, before anybody came into the offices at AB, right there in St. Louis, in the parking lot, unloaded it all, got the car out, set everything up, went in, had a meeting set up to actually, have with AB and everything, went into the meeting, got upstairs, went to the office and said, hey, look down there. And the guys looked down and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were bringing the rig and the car and everything. So so they went down, and this was right in front of everybody. So everybody in the parking lot at AB had to come through, walk and everything. Well, they started it up and everything, but he basically showed them exactly what they could get. I mean, so you could get all this sponsorship on the side of a, funny car at that time because nobody did it. And that was it. It was a billboard right down the road. And plus on the truck and trailer, everything. So I mean, that was the biggest selling point there because they didn't know. They just really had no clue how this was going to go. And at that point, he just knew that this was the way that, it was going to be. So
I'm sure they were involved with more, but the two biggest things that I remember Budweiser being associated with in terms of racing were you guys, your dad, obviously.
Yeah, and his racing teams.
And then, of course, Miss Budweiser.
He had the
it was Miss Budweiser. Miss Budweiser and us.
But he had the drag racing. He had the IndyCar team.
Right.
And he had the Cup team, right?
Yep,
he ran the Cup team.
Yeah.
And then you had Bernie Little, who I used to bodyguard.
Yeah, that's
at
awesome.
the Madison Regatta. You want to talk about an ornery guy. that old boy would
Oh, yeah.
drive that Cadillac right to the edge of the water. Like, didn't care who was in the way, they were going to get bumped.
Yep.
Get off, he would stand out there. I'd stand with him the whole day, and I mean, it was Miss Budweiser. That was a cool gig there.
Oh, it was awesome too. Yeah, I went to one event, one of those events, and I went, and August the 4th showed up, and my dad was so nervous because I was still a young kid, and so I went with Karen Holschlag, which she was in charge of our program and everything, and he was so nervous that August the 4th was showing up, and he wasn't with me, and I was just at this event, and August showed up, and he actually got in Miss Budweiser and took it for a little. I mean, I'm not kidding. Took it for a little spin around the lake and back. Wow. Oh yeah, it was so incredible. But I was like, it was funny though. It was like so like you were like, oh my gosh, this is August the 4th is here, and like he's gonna get in the Miss Budweiser and take it for a spin. It was like, what? He's gonna do what? I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, back then he did whatever he wanted, So.
Dude, those things were so wild.
Oh, they were crazy
on the spots.
Oh yeah, and they are to this day.
Oh, they are for sure. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. They're jet fighters in the water.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Do you remember? So when that went down, approximate time of year, was it the following year that the relationship?
Yes, exactly.
Started?
So it was 79, I believe, and then 80 was when we first got the sponsorship. Yeah, the Budweiser sponsorship. Yeah.
Yeah, and he went on to, of course, amazing success.
Oh yeah, just incredible. Yeah. And then I drove the Budweiser car for 10 years, and then 2 years. In the Copart car, and then another 2 years with Morgan and his Lucas side. So yeah, the MAVTV side.
Yeah, and Tim Richards, a huge part.
Oh, huge part.
I mean, he was I think he was with Amato for near 30 years.
He was, yeah.
And then over to your father, and a couple of championships there. A lot.
And
of
then
wins,
before
and then
Tim was Dale Armstrong. Dale was the the pioneer of a lot of drag racing and in the drag racing sport, and got my dad a lot of the funny car championships, basically all the funny car championships and everything. So yeah, so that was an amazing man there. So
your
Tim,
opportunity to get inside of the car, it was already a dragster team at that
yes,
point. The funny
was.
car had gone away. So
yeah, the funny car had gone away. It was just.
Did you
a
have any
dragster.
desires to?
I never really had a desire to drive the funny car. That something about that engine right in front of you, and just right the clutch and in between your legs. I don't dig any of that. I just never wanted any of that. So I just I always felt like that the engine was fine back there, and I'll take that. So yeah.
But when did the monster car come on?
So the monster came on, I think in let me think here. So that would have been
because you were driving fuel.
I was driving the top fuel car, and then he drove the funny car in. Gosh, I want to say that had to have been.
I mean, he couldn't have been out of the car but a couple of years, right?
Or 05, 06, somewhere in there, maybe.
Was he was only
and
out
so
of the
he was
car.
he was only out of the car for like 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years, and gets
and
back
then
in
gets the funny car, the monster car. Yeah,
because that was handled by AB
right
at the time.
Exactly.
And they wanted to go, and so
and the only bad thing about that was we just didn't have the right crew chief at the time. For that monster car. It was a great team. We had a great team. We had all the funding for it and everything. We just didn't have the right crew chief in place for it to really perform the right way, and that's the only reason why we just didn't perform. And that was the missing piece. It really was. But it was unfortunate there.
One of the most impressive things that I've heard, and you and I are around each other a tremendous amount. But one of the most impressive things that I heard was John Force, the GOAT himself, walks up and he says, I idolized your dad. And he's really what pushed me to be what I am today, and told Brandon that about Kenny.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I mean, it really is. He always says that to me. To this day, he still says it to me. And he always asks about my dad, and always John does. And I love John. John's a really good friend of mine, and always has been.
He'll be excited to see him in Denver.
It will be.
That'll be great.
Yeah, he'll be excited. Tips, dude.
We'll put that in a picture.
A lot of people had the blonde tips.
Yeah, no,
he probably had it better than anybody.
Welcome back to the Skinny, ladies and gentlemen. That is Brandon Bernstein. In 2001, was competing in the NHRA and Top Alcohol Dragster, and eventually went on to win Driver of the Year. Pretty prestigious award there, my friend.
Yeah, that was fun. Driving the alcohol car was just I mean, it was just so much fun. Like that year, there wasn't a lot of pressure, honestly, because it was the alcohol class. It wasn't, the professional class. So, you went to a lot of division races, you went to a lot of national event races, but I just had a blast doing it. It was just, there was no pressure. It was something about just driving the alcohol car was just relaxed,
Who were you driving?
And so
for?
I was driving for Jerry Darian at the time, and I had Randy Green with me the whole time. And as most of you guys know out there, Randy Green's just so laid back and just calm, collective, and he's just it was just
That's
a lot of
awesome.
fun traveling with that team and doing what I did that year. I went to 9 finals, I think, and won 5 of those races. And it was just a natural progression for me, honestly. Like, I didn't drive anything growing up as a kid. I played soccer all my life.
Was that your first foray in drag racing?
That was the
You
very
started off in
first.
Top Alcohol
in
Dragster?
Top Hall Dragster. That was the very first. I jumped into it. What I did was I did
Hear you, Dad. Now let's
Hollies.
start him off in a sportsman class.
No, yeah, that's it. That was it. But I did
we don't
go
have
to
any nitro,
Hollies.
so we'll
Yeah,
put it
right.
in this, I
Exactly.
guess.
Yeah, exactly. I did go to Hollies Super Cup class for a weekend. I got my license there, and then the next year, my dad said, hey, we're going to put you in an alcohol dragster, and we're going to, do this with Jerry. You're going to be with the car 24/7, and so I worked out of Jerry Darian's shop and everything for the whole year, and we went and raced that whole year, and it was just fun.
So was Morgan doing the same thing at the same time?
No,
Not
this was after he did it after I did.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any teams that are still out there that were then that you can think of?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that there
20 years,
were.
I mean, it's a
so
long
yeah,
ways,
it's a ways ago. So, but yeah.
So as you guys,
But
kicked
so
that-
many people, so many people went through Jerry. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at Morgan, you look at myself, you look at Brittany, you look at even Selzy. Selzy drove for Darian back in the day. I mean, so there's so many
That's
good
awesome.
drivers went through Jerry's program and drove for him, in the alcohol class.
Is there a common denominator? Do you feel like you learned something there maybe you wouldn't have learned from another team?
I think so. Yeah, I think just his patience, and he's a teacher by trade, and I think that the way that he teaches you to drive, and the way that he is patient with you and everything that he does, and he always gives you a great car. I mean, the performance of that car is usually great from year in to year out.
So I've got it.
Similar to the McPhillips program.
Yes,
that I-
exactly. That's
and
exactly
Randy-
right.
And Randy.
Yeah, Randy Meyer.
Randy
Yep.
Meyer, thank you.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, that team. Oof.
Oh yeah, both of those teams are
Those
incredible.
two teams are the.
Exactly.
I mean, they got something right now.
Yeah,
that's
for
unreal.
sure. Yeah.
So when we look at that year, 2001, you had
Yeah.
a pretty special moment that will forever stand in
Oh,
the
yeah.
history books. You and your father become the
So
first
cool.
father-son duo to win.
Yeah, and that was just what was cool about that day too is that normally the way the schedule of events go during the day is that alcohol runs before the top fuel, the final does, and top fuel's always last. Well, for whatever reason, I can't remember. I think there might have been a storm that came through or something got mixed up, and top fuel ran before the alcohol cars
Because they were running.
because
out
they
of
were
time.
running out of time or
Yeah.
whatever. And so top fuel went, and my dad wins top fuel. And so then I have to go next,
You're in the lanes.
and I'm in the lanes getting
Yeah.
ready to go for the final and everything. And we end up winning. And it was just, I mean, and he was down there waiting for me to come
Do
around
you
the
remember
corner.
the moment? Did
Oh
the
yeah, I
pressure
remember the moment.
escalate?
Oh, it escalated tremendously. Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah. I mean, I was like, now that he's won, then I'm like, oh.
He's like, you really
Yeah, he's
wish
like-
you could have put it the other way around. Let me win. And then put it on
Exactly.
him,
I was
right?
like, jeez. So, but yeah, I just remember that tremendously. It was such a great day. I mean, it really was. It was amazing. And the pictures that we have to this day with us having, both the Wallies there and the background of the Vegas Strip and everything. I just, I get goosebumps just talking about it.
And you did it again later in the year as
Yeah,
well?
then we did it in Chicago again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
and
you
that
have the
was
blonde
cool,
tips
so.
then?
I did have the blonde tips, dude.
We'll
Yeah.
put that in a
Yeah, I
A
picture.
know.
lot of
for you.
people
Yeah.
had the blonde tips
Yeah.
back then.
No,
He probably had
I
it
was
better
rocking
than
it.
anybody. I'm just going to throw that out there.
No, I was rocking it. Yeah, yeah. I even went to the all blonde at one point in those years. Yeah, for whatever stupid reason, I was like, hey, let's just do all blonde, and see what happens.
And then
I didn't like it that much.
Then
so.
he shaved it. You would have thought that he was losing his hair. He's got a handsome head of hair.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You know,
No, and I have a nice,
mine, but,
I have a nice dome too, obviously, because I did shave it. So it's it's not dented.
Pull off
and,
either
you know.
look. Yeah,
I mean, not
handsome
that,
devil.
not that you're bragging on yourself.
Oh yeah,
but,
well I'm
Yeah, we
sorry
pat
about
you in the
that.
back, put your hands in the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Well, those things they happen.
Honestly.
Hold on. Michael didn't. You used to do a show with them or out at
So back in the day, I had a radio show, and we would cover the U.S. Nationals. Curtis Williams was the account rep for AB, and he made sure that happened. So I saw Brandon in the completely white-haired days. I saw the rise of Brandon Bernstein.
Yes, you did. I love it. It was so good.
I just look back, honestly, at everything you're talking about and hearing your father. He must have, and I think you mentioned it before when John Force is saying, your dad's my hero, but what an amazing businessman he was.
Yes. And that was like from day one, he's always been that way. And he, when he had the Chelsea Street pubs and everything, like that was his business mind has always been the forefront of his racing. His racing was always fun in that part, and everything, but it was always business first, even in the racing, you see. And so he's always been that way from day one, always took care of all of our sponsors the right way. Everything about his program was all about business. And he always made it a point to teach all of our employees the same way all the time. Yeah.
To have a sponsor like AB that long is...
Oh, you're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Says a lot.
For sure.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break here one more time. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more from the Fatheads Eyewear Studios here in Speedway, Indiana.
He honestly scared the crap out of me when he got to me because it was only like a matter of like 5 seconds and somebody was there and he was like right at the roll cage and he said, Brandon. And when he said Brandon, I was like...
The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach. Innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear. Hardcore since '04.
Once again, welcome back to The Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. Rico Elmore sitting right alongside. He's the man behind Fatheads Eyewear and this studio. Michael Young back there doing his best to keep up with the controls here
Just
today.
hanging on, baby. Hanging
on by skin of his chinny chin chin. And
That's
Mr.
right.
Brandon Bernstein has joined us here.
Yes, sir.
Probably be a one and done. I don't know how quickly he'll be back to this
yeah.
deal.
Well,
He's
you never know.
He's about ready to... It's about ready to Robin Melrose.
Yeah.
Walk right out in the
Stand
middle
up
of
in
the
the
I'm
middle
out.
of the show and bail
Peace-
out.
peace
I'm down
out.
here. 10 years, man. A 10-year run.
Yeah.
237 starts is what I read anyways.
Sure,
but
sounds about right.
I got to tell you the truth, man. When I was looking you up and doing a little bit of homework,
Yeah.
I did not realize you were in the game for that long.
Yeah, it was long. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. The only reason I really got out was because of my back. And it was it was time because I still had some pain and numbness in my foot and tingling to this day. I still have it, but it comes and goes. It's daily, but the pain is worse each day. Some days are better than others, but it's part of it. I wouldn't have changed it for the world, though. I love driving those race cars, and I miss it on some Sundays. It just depends. But it's only on Sunday. It's only on race day when you want to just
all the other stuff.
all the other stuff you can have, but it's only on Sunday when you want to get up and next to somebody, the national anthem goes off, and you want to kick their ass. That's it.
So for the fans that are watching, let's go back a step and talk to you about, fill you in the gaps here of what he's referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So 2003, you make your Top Fuel debut.
Yeah.
You are slaying the field. I mean, I think you won 3 of your first 5 or first 8 events and leading the points, and you get to Englishtown where my career started,
Right.
and things go astray.
Yeah, they go pretty south pretty fast, and in those cars they do, and it was a rookie mistake, honestly. I got off and on the throttle too many times. It lost traction right at the hit. The other guy was doing the same thing, and I just never saw him, and it got way out of control. And when it got out of control, it went into the wall kind of with the ass end. And so when it did that, we had only a single upright in your back. So like where the top of the roll cage comes together and everything, there was one upright, and so when it hit, it basically kept my back together there, and then right where the upright is where it broke my back. So it was T3 fracture and separation.
Well, the car went sideways and went up and just smacked the top corner.
Right,
of the
and then
K-rail.
it kind of rode the wall and then went down and hit the grass. It never flipped or anything, and I never was knocked out. So I knew like everything that happened was the craziest thing. But I felt it immediately when I hit the wall, like in my back. And it was excruciating pain because at that point, you know, T3 and everything, you take a breath and your rib cage moves. And so it was excruciating pain. And one of the weirdest things, though, with the whole thing was when I finally stopped, the doc was on the wall right where I stopped. So he had just backed up from the wall. And so he honestly scared the crap out of me when he got to me because it was only like a matter of like 5 seconds and somebody was there. And he was like right at the roll cage. And he said, Brandon. And when he said Brandon, I was like jumped. I mean, it just scared me so bad because I was like,
how long have you been here,
right? Exactly. I was like, where'd you come from? You know, it's like, how'd you get here so fast? But he was right on the wall, right where I stopped. And so he was right there. And so the safety safari did an amazing, and I'm to this day, it's probably the reason I'm walking because you know, when we got back to California and got to Dr. Watkins, my spine guy, and he's an amazing doctor out there. He does all the top guys, Troy Aikman, all those guys, all the big guys that back then in that day. The actual fracture was on the spinal cord. It just didn't. It was indented on the spinal cord. It just didn't sever anything. So to this day, I think the safety safari and the way they did exactly moved me the wrong way. Everything. Yeah. So they did an amazing job and everything about getting me out. But it was crazy how like you know. I remember everything about that crash and how it happened and everything. But it was honestly it was a rookie mistake. I just kept going on and off the throttle. I didn't let it recover and just ease into the throttle. And so, you know, it's just one of those things. But yeah, we were dominating that year. I mean, it was my year to win the championship as a rookie, honestly.
And you said Dad got in the seat for you.
Dad got back in the seat.
On and continued to beat
continued on and continued to dominate. Actually won the last 5 out of 6 races. Yeah, at the end of the season. And it was...
How fast do you think you were going when?
Probably about 125, 130, somewhere in there.
So I was going 15 when I got wrecked off of my bicycle the other day.
Oh,
same
dang.
thing.
Yeah,
but the rib cage thing, totally relate.
It was, and the bad part about it was I didn't have surgery, didn't have to have surgery or anything, but the worst part was I had to wear a turtle shell from my waist to my chin 24/7 for 4 months. 4 months straight.
That's horrible.
So basically, what the doc said was
bar down the back of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a full turtle
like a
shell
barrel.
strapped in both sides up, and you kept your chin up
every
like
time
this.
something itches, you got a coat hanger.
Dude, and every time you had to move, you couldn't get comfortable sleeping, anything. Like it's 24/7. You couldn't take it off at night, anything. I had to sleep in it, everything. But the doc said that, you know, eventually because of the nerve and everything going down your spinal cord, it basically pushes the bone away from it. And so we wanted it to heal naturally instead of having a surgery on it. And so that's what it did. So then I had another 5 months of rehab after that to get my strength back and everything. And I just, you know, it was just, I mean, brutal though. I mean, just the pain was excruciating.
Want to get the skinny on other guests and different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny.
Welcome back to The Skinny. I'm Ken Stout. These are the Fatheads Eyewear Studios located in Speedway, Indiana. We're just down the road from that beautiful place known as Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Brandon Bernstein in the house here. We're also about 10 minutes away from the historic home of the U.S. Nationals, which I know you've spent some time there as well.
Yes.
Hey, I want to go back to that 2003 wreck, and you were talking about on and off the throttle because I was able to watch the video of it.
Give it a break.
No, I find it amazing.
I had a break.
I'm kidding.
We talked about this a number of times about how quickly their brains are working, right, at the time. So you're on, it hits the tires.
Yep.
You get off of the throttle, and then you get back on them, I mean, so quickly. But in your brain, you're probably off the throttle for what felt like days.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then immediately
and
back on. But it
on.
literally was a boom, boom,
Yeah.
and hit it, and they never had a chance to recover.
They never had a chance to recover, and that was my mistake. Obviously, I should have, let the car settle and then eased back on the throttle like a lot of us do to this day.
So to watch those guys do that, when they
Exactly.
do pull it off successfully, you must be thinking that is about the hardest thing.
It's so hard because you look at, I mean, most of, the normal people don't know, but you look at the throttle pedal and there's only that much travel in our throttle pedal. I mean, honestly, it's about a half inch.
It's not
total.
like you're rolling
It's not,
in an inch.
It's
You
not,
can't
it's not,
squeeze
and
on
you
like
can't
in your passenger
squeeze
car.
a nice
Yeah.
passenger, like a passenger car. There's no squeeze in this.
It's on
It's
off.
very hard to do that. So, so trying to do that is very difficult in a 11,000 horsepower
well, and
car.
not to mention the
So,
G-forces from the car
exactly,
slinging you
it's
around.
slinging you around and everything, and your adrenaline's going, so much because you're in competition. You're trying to do the same thing that the other person is doing in the other lane because they're trying to do the same thing you're doing. So
I
you
could do
hear
it.
them, you can't see them, whatever.
do it.
Yeah, I know
Probably
you
do
could
it
do
right
it.
now.
I know you could probably do it, but one of the hardest things to do in drag racing is pedal a car, and to do it at a consistently, good and be good at it. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, for the fans at home, and listen, I'm included as well. I've never been inside of one of those things, but when you see the drivers that are successful, and I take a look at a John Force. I mean, even at his age, his ability to cut a light is still pretty impressive.
Yeah,
but if you
he does dump it in though a lot.
He does.
What I mean by dumping it in, he puts the car in
Yeah.
a little deeper than most people do.
I
so.
get it.
But I'm telling you right now,
He still can get it done. He does.
He could park at the first bulb and get it done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's not losing by.
No.
He's not winning by a little. I mean, they're still winning huge, and I mean,
He is.
it's amazing. That's why I told Stuart. I said, "Dude, you got 20 good years left in you out here."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, my point is going back to the drivers. Listening to you sit here, you think quick, you move quick,
Right.
and I think if you take a look at the top drivers, the one common denominator that they all have is their ability to be extremely quick in whatever movements or thought process it may be. Certainly in the
Sure.
world of drag racing, those reaction times are a massive part of the equation, no question about it. But when you take a look at the drivers that excel for a long amount of time, they're very, very good at what they do out
And they
there
are.
in that quick thinking process.
Definitely. And they have fast twitch muscles and everything about that goes on with it. So yes, absolutely.
It's not your average person. I guess the
No.
point I'm trying to make, it's really
It's
not
not.
your average person. The people that are excelling out there are the ones that would excel in football or basketball
Sure.
or any other
Any
form
sport.
of sport.
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
So brag on yourself. When did you feel like you mastered it? When did you feel like, hey, I've really got, because you talk about, hey, you didn't have this as a career background. You just
No.
hopped in and kind of went.
Right.
When did you master it?
I think probably my 5th year was when I really felt like that I was really feeling really good at it and really felt like that I was doing this to really master the trade, so to speak. Yeah. In 07 was really my best year, and that was 4 years into it. And I was really feeling really good. And that was the year we came one round away from winning the championship. We were right there. We were semifinals at Pomona, and if I would have won that round, we would have won the championship. We would have been championship winners. But it was unfortunate. We had a a failure, and we lost to Schumacher, to my buddy AJ.
When do you think your dad saw that you were capable of competing at the highest levels?
I think he noticed it when I drove the A fuel car. When I drove the alcohol car. Honestly, I mean, I think that he knew that that I was capable of doing this when he saw what kind of a person I was in that A fuel car and what kind of a driver I was doing that.
I mean, I'm sure he wanted the best for his son.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Your father, being the businessman that
Oh, I
he
know,
is, if you couldn't get it done,
I would have been out. No questions about it.
race walking.
Yes. Hey, but
Remember those
listen.
guys, like-
But yes, exactly, Kent. Yeah, exactly, Kent. Seriously.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since 04. And American Coach. American Coach, innovation is our life force.
That is Brandon Bernstein has joined us here in the Fatheads Eyewear Studios at Speedway, Indiana. I'm Ken Stout. Welcome back to the Skinny.
I'm
We've
Rico.
been talking about Brandon, who's friends with Rico. That's Rico.
Hi, Rico.
Why are they friends? Who knows? But hey, man.
Yeah.
So you end up being very successful inside of a top fuel dragster, but
Sure.
you went to school, bachelor's degree in kinesiology? Is that it?
Kinesiology. Yeah, kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
Yeah, with a
job,
specialization in sport management. Yeah, so I just couldn't find anything that I really loved at Texas A&M, but that was, it got the like business side of sports,
I was going to say, what was home ec
so it
full
was
or
like
something? Or
yeah, home ec.
can't
Yeah,
get in
exactly.
there and succeed
Hey,
brownies?
I did take race walking as one of my electives.
Race walking.
Yes. Hey,
Remember
but listen.
those guys? Like,
But yes, exactly, Ken. Yeah, exactly, Ken. Seriously. But yes, kines. Yeah, that was my degree, and I really just wanted something that I could fall back on because I knew I wanted to race. I mean, that was and my dad wanted me to get a degree. I wanted to get a degree, and so I knew that something that I could take and do something with after if I didn't want to do racing, but I knew I wanted to race.
Did you do any involvement with it?
No,
since
nothing.
school?
No, nothing. I didn't. I mean, I still to this day.
What are you talking
wouldn't-
about? Speed walking or?
Yeah.
Oh, the degree.
Olympics.
Yeah, right. No.
Olympic tryouts, USD.
No. Absolutely
my bad.
not.
I'm sorry. So your love for cooking, where did it come from?
Yeah, I think the love for cooking came from my grandmother, honestly, because I used to, as a kid, be in the kitchen with her a lot, and I've always just loved that, time with her, and I really do enjoy, cooking and everything. And then now that I've, become really good friends with Guy Fieri, and that came from the racing side.
This would be a great show for him to
and
tell
everything.
what he's doing today.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that part of it too. Yeah.
I had a real quick story. I remember this just now that you said the Guy Fieri thing. I used to work for a graphics company, and we needed to redo graphics for Brandon, so we printed them late. I hopped on a Southwest flight, flew to Los Angeles International, landed at about 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And as we landed, Brandon goes, "Hey, I'm right out front." So I hand him the graphics. He goes, "Okay, thanks, see ya." And he just leaves, and I was like, "Okay." So I went to go back in the airport and sit and drink at the bar. I couldn't get a ticket because the airport had closed. So I had to go to a Marriott about a mile away and sit in the lobby. I couldn't fall asleep or they charged me for a room. And I always thought to myself, that was just a great encounter with Brandon Bernstein. I loved it.
Great.
All right, bye.
Yeah,
Maybe,
see ya.
maybe I'm wrong here, but didn't you say this was a quick story?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh,
but
that's
yeah.
all right. That's all right.
So,
Hey, I had to get the decals.
superstar top fuel driver. I mean, hey.
Kind of
time of
a,
day.
Yeah,
kind
that
of
was
a big
it.
deal. I don't know if you know it or
Yeah,
not.
kind of.
So your days now are heavily involved at the Lucas Oil Products Company, and what is your actual title there?
So title is Director of Partnership Marketing. Basically, I'm in charge of all motorsports for Lucas Oil, all the sponsorships. That's with all of our series, all of our ambassador program, all of our tracks, basically anything and everything. I do also have shooters and anglers in my program and everything. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's funny because I didn't know how I was gonna respond to this, but it's so much fun because I'm on the other side of it now. I've always been sponsored by everybody, and now I'm the one that's sponsoring people and actually really having a lot of fun with the younger generation with it and trying to teach these kids how to do decks and how to talk to sponsors and how to do social media the right way or whatever it is that I really enjoy that side of it. Do contracts. I like contract negotiating. I like, beating up, some of these teams for, they're trying to get as much money out of me as possible. And I like going back and forth with them and trying to, deal with that and everything. That's fun to me. I enjoy that part of it. Now, the corporate side of it, I'm in HR quite a bit. They don't like, sometimes, you know, how I am and how I you know, say what I mean, you know, what I feel at the time and everything. But we're working through all that, you know, so it's good. It's all right.
He's got 2 certificates in anger management. So
Yeah,
he's doing
yeah,
great.
hey,
Oh, he's
yeah.
passing flying colors.
Not that he
Yeah,
has
buddy.
any problem in that.
No,
you know?
I don't have a problem. No problem.
How did the relationship between, I know you and Morgan are good buddies, have been
Yeah.
for a long time. You drove for Morgan for a few years
Yeah.
as well. How did that start and develop?
So I think it started back when, you know, I drove for Jerry Darian and then he drove for Jerry. And then, you know, when we started with my dad on the Lucas Oil side and everything with him sponsored with Lucas and everything, that's kind of where it all started. And then we just became really good friends. There was a time where, you know, Eric Medlin, myself and Morgan and then Ashley Force, they kind of called us the Brat Pack, you know, back in the day. And that was when we were all racing together at the time. And so that was really kind of how it started and our friendship started. And then we've just been buddies, you know, from there on out, you know. It's been a fun time. And I've always felt like that the Lucas family has been my family too, you know, just because we've always been there. And Charlotte and Forrest or I always call her mom, you know, and she always says, you know, she calls me son, you know, and everything. So it's always been really, you know, that kind of a family, you know, feel to it and everything. So, you know, when I was able to, you know, take this job and Morgan, you know, gave me the opportunity for the job, it was like a natural fit for me, honestly. So it's been fun. It has. Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Great stuff, man. We enjoyed having you on the show.
Well, thanks, guys. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah, you probably didn't. You probably thought it was just going to be boring.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Bernstein. Now you know the skinny on this guy.